Hello, this is Susan Allen from the Quilt Asylum in McKinney, Texas, and today I'm going to show you the steps for basic English paper piecing. I have a simple grandmother's flower garden here, and I'm going to show you how to construct this block. English paper piecing has been around for hundreds of years. I discovered it almost 20 plus years ago, and I am thrilled with the resurgence of this technique and all of the fabulous quilts that are being designed today using this method. One of the reasons I love English paper piecing so much is because it is hand piecing, and I like to work with my hands. And to me, hand piecing equals portable. I have all of my supplies in my Yazzie bag, and I can take English paper piecing with me wherever I go, whether I'm traveling in a car or by a plane or sitting for an appointment or whatever. It's just easy to take with me. It's pretty simple, and sometimes at night when I'm watching TV with my husband, I want to sew, but I don't want to think too hard, and English paper piecing fits that bill perfectly. It is, like I said, very simple. Once you learn the couple of things you need to know, you can make anything you want, whether it's very simple or very complex. And the construction is completely the same, no matter the design. So let's talk about sizing for a bit, because you're going to need to know that before you start your first project. This is a paper that we use for the English paper piecing. I get it from paperpieces.com. They are the premier resource in the US. It is a little heavier than copy paper, a little thinner than an index card. It's got crisp edges, it's flexible, whatever. Pieces are sized by the length of the edge. Not from point to point, not from edge to edge, but the length of the edge. This happens to be a 1-inch hexagon. If you're going to work with the design and design your own projects, you need to make sure that all of the shapes that you're using are the same size. So a 1-inch hexagon fits a 1-inch square, fits a 1-inch triangle, fits a 1-inch diamond, etc., etc. So whether you're working in 1 inch or 1.5 or 2 inch or even up to 3 inch, you need to make sure everything is on the same scale, and that is determined by the length of the side. So let's talk about supplies. Supplies are pretty basic. I have two kinds of glue stick. I have a simple Elmer's washable school glue. I buy these in bulk around back to school time. You can usually get a pretty good deal. They're cheap, they're easy, they're washable. When they get old, they get gummy. I just throw them out and open a new one. This is my Sew Line glue pen. It has also got washable glue, but it has a finer tip on it, and I'm going to show you how we use that in a minute. I use black gold sharp needles, number 10. I use the thimble pads right here on my finger, because hours and hours of sewing, you can wear a little divot in your finger, and this helps push the needle through. Of course, I have my clover needle threader because I'm blind as a bat. I have my thread magic, which I run my thread over it a couple of times. It conditions the thread, it keeps it from knotting, and it makes it glide through the fabric faster. I have, for thread, I use Aurifil 50 weight thread, the light gray in 2600, the medium tan in 2324. If you're working with scrappy, these colors blend in really great. This blends in great with darks and capes, and this blends in with scrappy and 30s and whatever. Of course, if you're doing a background that's a solid color, you would pick a thread to match that color. But for the most part, these two colors will do 90% of what you need to do. I have Clover Wonder Clips. Why do I need those? Once I excuse me, prepare my pieces and I throw them in my bag, I can clip all the pieces together for a block and pull them out one block at a time, and that lets me know that that's just a little block packet ready to go. And then, of course, my finger thread cushion, pin cushion with my pins in my needle. I apologize for that. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is we need to baste our paper onto fabric. Again, this is a 1-inch hexagon. I find it fits very nicely on a 2-inch square. I'm sorry, a 2.5-inch square. I can cut squares way faster with my ruler and rotary cutter than I could if I were trying to cut out actual hexagon shapes from my fabric. So I cut squares, triangles, whatever the base shape will fit on. That's how I cut my fabric before I start. I take my washable school glue and I put just a dot on the back of the piece before I place it on the fabric, and it just holds it, lightly holds it so that I can trim. I take my big scissors, I eyeball trim a 1/4 inch seam allowance. No measuring, no perfection, just trim it up. You can baste without trimming it, but that leaves a whole lot of bulk behind your piece, and if you choose to hand quilt, that's going to be more fabric that you have to hand quilt through. I just prefer to trim. We're going to take our sew line glue pen at this point, and I am going to glue baste these seam allowances to the back of the paper. You can thread baste, but to me it takes a little bit of time, and I want to maximize my sewing time, so glue basting is very quick. So I'm going to run a little bit of glue on the edge of the paper, and I'm going to fold that seam allowance over. Now I want to make sure that I don't fold as tight as I can. I just want to make a nice fold over crease, because we're going to need to access those threads on the edge. And if you find you're having trouble getting your needle through the threads on the edge of the paper, you've probably pulled it a bit too tight. So I just keep going around and around with my glue stick, my glue pen. And there you have a perfectly basted 1-inch hexagon, and that took about 20 seconds. So now that we have our piece basted, how do we sew them together? We'll pretend this is a full block just like this. If we were to lay them out, here would be our center, and then we would have hexagons going all the way around. I am going to show you how to sew these two pieces together, and then we're going to sew that inset Y, the Y part, next. So I'm going to pick up these two pieces and I'm going to put them face to face. I'm going to grab my needle with my thread. I'm going to make a quilter's knot. And we are going to whip stitch along this edge. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see a little better of what I'm doing. Okay, so we're going to whip stitch from this point to this point. So I'm going to take my needle and slide it up under the seam allowance and come out at the point. Move that out of the way. And I am simply going to grab a couple of threads that are sitting on top of that paper edge and make a stitch and continue all the way across the piece. Now, in order to save a little bit of time, I tend to stitch kind of small, but that's just me. Stitches need to be, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch apart. I'm taking a little bit bigger stitches so that we can get to the end quicker. I will also tell you that if you are working with big pieces, sometimes holding this end firm while you're starting at this end, let's pretend it's 3 inches wide, you can take that wonder clip and act as another set of thumb and forefinger to hold that together as you're holding a bigger piece in your hands. Now once I get to the corner, I want to make sure I'm not grabbing the paper, just the fabric sitting on top of the paper. I'm going to go through the corner. I'm going to go through the corner one more time and form a loop. Put my needle through the loop to make a knot. I could clip it off right there, but then you have this tail in the corner of your of your seam. I will take a back stitch to pretty much bury that tail and clip my thread. I'll make another knot so that I'm ready to go for the next one. Oops, we came undone. Let's grab the needle threader real quick. So much easier than trying to see. It's my knotted end. So now we have these two pieces sewn together and we need to inset this piece. I'm going to take this piece, I'm going to fold it up, and now we are going to sew from this corner to this corner. I don't care what's out here, all I care about is point to point at any one given moment. So I'm going to slide my needle up under that seam allowance, come out at the point, match my corners, and now I'm going to start sewing. And I'm going to sew toward the Y. Of course and like I said, I'm taking slightly larger stitches than I would normally, just to save a little bit of time. Just grabbing 2 to 3 threads that are sitting on top of the paper. Now I have reached the corner. Take a stitch at the corner. I'll probably take a second stitch at the corner. Fold this piece up. Now I need to sew these two pieces together. So I'm going to fold up, fold over, match my corners here and here. And you can see this piece is folded over, but the flexibility of the paper lets it fold and bend without causing a huge crease. And I'll take a stitch at that point and then work my way across the piece. So at any one time, no matter how long your chain is, you can sew rows and rows and rows together. All you care about at any point is this segment, and we'll worry about the rest of it with the next seam. So I'm going across. Well, dadgum. I'm trying to hurry. That's what happens when you hurry. Readjust, pick up where I left off. Now I'm back to the final corner. I will take a second stitch with the loop, take a back stitch to hide that tail, clip it off, and there you have your 3 pieces together. Easy peasy, not a problem. The beauty of English paper piecing is once you have, zoom out a little bit, once you have surrounded a shape with other pieces, so all of the sides of the shape, whether it's the 6 sides of a hexagon, the 3 sides of a triangle, the 4 sides of a diamond, whatever, once all of the sides are attached to another piece, you can flip it over, run the edge of your scissors or a purple thing or something to loosen up that glue and pop that piece out and reuse it. So I have used papers, I don't know, 4, 6, 8 times. They are very durable, they are very reusable. As long as you can keep the integrity of your corners, you can use the shape over and over and over again. So that's pretty much it. If I wanted to do another ring, I would do the same thing and join them together and keep going until my quilt was finished. So resources, all of the notions that I've shown you today, you can find on our website under the notions section. That's www.thequiltasylum.com. If you want to look at different designs, I advise you to go out to paperpieces.com. They are a fabulous resource. They have downloadable coloring pages. So if you want to play with just hexagons and do great creative things with hexagons, you can download hexagon grid paper. They have grid paper with multiple shapes, so you can go out there and get some free basic grandmother's flower garden patterns, and you can also go out there and get gridded design paper that you can print off yourself so that you can color your own designs. That's all I have for basic English paper piecing. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time. Again, this is Susan Allen with thequiltasylum.com. Bye-bye.